Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. The soft sound of giggling woke me up from a heavy sleep. My eyes slowly got used to the dark. I turned and saw Sarah, her face lit up by her phone screen. 3 in the morning. She never stayed up this late. Something felt wrong deep down. Her shoulders tightened when she saw me move. 5 years of being married taught me to know when something wasn't right. Without thinking, I reached over and took the phone from her hands. The fear in her eyes told me everything before I even looked at the screen. "What are you doing?" she whispered sharply, reaching for the phone. "Give it back." I held it away. My heart hammered as I quickly saw the messages. A man's name I didn't know. My stomach dropped like a stone as I scrolled through the words. He was describing things, private, intimate things with Sarah in a way that made my blood run cold. Worse, he was making fun of me, calling me clueless, joking about how I was asleep while they were together. "If you love me, just go back to sleep," she begged, her voice shaky. "Please, just give me the phone and go back to sleep." Her words felt like a slap, using our love as a weapon. 5 years together meant nothing to her in that moment. I kept reading, even as she desperately tried to grab the phone. The messages showed months of lies, weeks of them laughing at me behind my back, days of her sneaking around while I worked extra to give her everything she wanted. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely controlled, the anger building inside me. "How long has this been going on?" She stammered, tears welling up in her eyes. But they weren't tears of guilt. They were tears of being caught. I knew the difference right away. Her perfect secret life was falling apart. And that's what hurt her most. Not my pain. Not the betrayal, just her being exposed. "It's not what you think," she said. The oldest lie in the book. The more I read, the clearer it became. Every late night at work, every girl's night out, every weekend trip to her mom's, all lies. The messages had details about hotels, times they met while I was working, plans for the future. "You did this in our bed?" I asked, finding messages that confirmed my worst fears. Her silence was the answer, the ultimate disrespect. I felt sick, but I wouldn't show weakness. Instead, I quickly forwarded the worst messages to my own phone. Evidence. I stood up and backed away as she lunged for the phone again. "You need to listen to me," she pleaded, the shock turning into desperation. "I can explain everything. But what could explain this level of betrayal? 5 years of building a life, 5 years of sacrifices, 5 years I could never get back. And for what? To be the joke between her and some other guy? To be the fool working his tail off while she was with him? Looking at her tear-streaked face, I made a decision that would change everything. I wouldn't just walk away. I wouldn't just accept this. I would make sure everyone knew who she really was. Her desperate excuses fell on deaf ears. Each one just made my anger grow. 5 years of memories flashed through my mind. Every anniversary I made special. Every promotion we celebrated. Every time I chose her. All while she was betraying me. "You don't understand," she repeated, reaching for the phone again. I stepped back, keeping my distance as I kept saving evidence. My fingers flew across the screen, taking screenshots and sending them to my email. No way was I letting her delete these. No way was I letting her change the story. "What exactly don't I understand?" I demanded. "That you've been sleeping with another man? That you've both been laughing at me? That you've been living a double life while I worked myself to death for us?" Her face twisted between fear and calculation. I could almost see her brain working, trying to find a way to get back in control. That's when it hit me even harder. This wasn't her first time lying. This was just her first time getting caught. "It was a mistake," she whispered, trying a different angle. "It didn't mean anything. A mistake." I laughed bitterly. "A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. A mistake is burning dinner. This is months of deliberate choices. Every single day, you chose to lie to my face." I scrolled further back, finding messages showing their affair had been going on for almost a year, almost a fifth of our entire relationship. While I planned our anniversary trip, she planned dates with him. While I saved for our future, she spent afternoons in hotel rooms. The betrayal was complete. "Who else knows?" I asked suddenly, wondering if I was the only idiot. Her silence answered that too. Our friends? Maybe even family? How many people had pitted me while keeping her secret? The humiliation burned worse than the betrayal. "Give me a chance to make this right," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "Make this right," I repeated, not believing her. "There's no making this right. You can't undo what you did with him. You can't unsay the things you both said about me. You can't unlive your double life." I saw new messages pop up on her phone. The other guy was still texting, not knowing I had it. An idea formed in my mind, a way forward that would bring a kind of twisted justice. "Sit down," I ordered, pointing to the edge of the bed. "Please," she started. I said sit down. My voice was low and hard, filling the bedroom. In 5 years, I'd never raised my voice to her. Never needed to. But nothing was the same anymore. I quickly typed a message from her phone to her lover. He knows everything. Then I turned it off and put it on the dresser, out of her reach. What did you just do? She asked, panic rising in her voice. I'm taking control, I replied calmly, pulling out my own phone. Now it's my turn to decide what happens next. I started forwarding the screenshots to myself, organizing the evidence. My mind raced ahead, the exposure, the consequences, the freedom from this fake life. You don't want to do this, she warned, desperation in her voice. Think about what people will say. Think about our families. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. That's the difference between us. You care about what people will say. I care about the truth. With the evidence saved, I knew what to do. First, contain the situation. Then, carefully tear down the life she had built on lies. The night was far from over. With her phone and the evidence secure, I needed to act fast. Her increasingly frantic attempts to grab my phone told me everything about her priorities. It wasn't about my broken trust or my pain. It was about damage control. You need to calm down, I told her firmly. You lost the right to make demands when you decided to betray everything we had. I moved towards the door, my mind already planning the next steps. She lunged, trying to block me. I stepped aside easily, walked out, and closed the door behind me. The lock clicked just as she reached the handle. What are you doing? She screamed, pounding on the door. You can't lock me in here. Watch me, I replied coldly. I need time to think without your lies. The pounding continued as I walked to the living room, her muffled pleas following me. I needed to be methodical now. No rash moves, no emotional outbursts that she could use later. The betrayal was still fresh, but my mind was surprisingly clear. 5 years of trust gone in minutes, but I wouldn't let it destroy my future too. I opened her lover's contact info from the screenshots. The messages showed he was married too. Another family being ripped apart by their selfishness. His wife deserved to know just like I did. But first, I wanted him to know that his little secret was out. I opened the voice recorder on my phone and spoke clearly. This is the husband you've been laughing about. The joke's over. I've seen everything, every message, every detail, every time you mocked me. I have screenshots of everything, and in about 5 minutes your wife will too. Hope it was worth it. I sent the audio file directly to his number, watching as it delivered with a satisfying read receipt almost instantly. Seconds later, my phone buzzed with calls from him. I ignored them, watching as text messages poured in. Please don't do this. We can talk like men. I'll do anything. Name your price. The desperation in his messages mirrored Sarah's pleas from behind the bedroom door. They were both suddenly willing to do anything now that they were caught. Funny how that worked. I ignored his calls and focused on organizing the evidence. I created a folder with the most damning messages, the ones that made it impossible to twist the truth. I made sure to include the ones where they specifically joked about me, our home, our marriage, the ones that showed how little respect they had. My phone kept vibrating with his desperate attempts to reach me. The offers got bigger, along with apologies and even threats. None of it mattered. I was past negotiating. The only thing I cared about now was the truth. I found his wife on social media quickly. Taking a deep breath, I wrote her a message, attaching the screenshots. I'm so sorry to be the one to tell you this, but my wife and your husband have been having an affair for almost a year. Here's the proof. You deserve to know the truth. I hit send without hesitation. The bedroom door kept rattling as Sarah's pleas turned to threats, then back to desperate bargaining. I tuned it all out, focusing on the task. Next came the family groups, her parents, my parents, our closest friends. One by one, I shared the undeniable evidence. I've discovered something everyone needs to know. I wrote. I'm sorry to share this publicly, but I refuse to be the only one living a lie. With each message sent, I felt a small piece of control returning. The shame I'd felt was being replaced by a cold resolve. I wouldn't be the fool in the dark anymore. I wouldn't carry their secrets. If they were bold enough to betray me, I would be bold enough to expose them. His calls had stopped. I imagined the scene at his house as his wife confronted him. Meanwhile, responses were coming in from family: shock, disbelief, support. The truth was spreading, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. The notifications on my phone multiplied. Family, friends, even people we barely knew were reaching out after seeing the evidence. The web of lies Sarah had built was collapsing fast, and I was making sure it was thorough. No half measures, no room for her to spin a different story. His wife called me directly, her voice shaking with the same shock and anger I'd felt. We shared information, comparing timelines and stories. She thanked me again and again for having the courage to tell her the truth. Another victim in their selfish game. I felt a strange connection to this woman I'd never met. Both of us betrayed by the people we trusted most. He's trying to deny it, she told me. But the evidence is undeniable. The timestamps, the photos, the details. Thank you for not keeping me in the dark. Sarah's pounding on the bedroom door had become less frequent. Occasional sobs replaced the earlier demands and threats. I checked the time. Almost 2 hours had passed since I found out. 2 hours that had completely destroyed the life I thought I had. I walked to the bedroom, hearing only silence now. Taking a deep breath, I unlocked the door and pushed it open. She sat on the edge of the bed, makeup smeared, staring blankly at the wall. The fight had gone out of her. Reality had set in. Your phone's on the dresser, I said flatly. You might want to check it. Your lover's wife knows everything now. She grabbed the phone, scrolling frantically through the notifications. Messages from family, missed calls from friends, her social media blowing up with reactions. Her fingers trembled as she looked at the digital wreckage of her reputation. Why? She whispered, looking up at me with red eyes. Why did you have to tell everyone? Why did you have to cheat? I countered. Why did you have to lie? Why did you have to disrespect not just me, but our entire life, our families, our friends? You made your choices. These are the consequences. Her phone rang. Her lover. She stared at the screen, frozen. Go ahead, I said coldly. Answer it. Put it on speaker. I'd love to hear what he has to say now that his wife knows everything too. She declined the call, setting the phone down with shaking hands. You've ruined everything, she accused, as if I were the bad guy. No, I replied calmly. You ruined everything when you decided our vows meant nothing. I'm just making sure the truth isn't buried under your lies. Another notification. His wife. She'd made a public post, tagging both Sarah and her husband, acknowledging the affair and expressing her disgust. The digital fire was spreading, just as I'd intended. My parents are calling, Sarah said, panic rising. What am I supposed to tell them? The truth would be a good start, I suggested. It's something you might want to get used to. She stood up suddenly, moving towards the closet. I need to get out of here. I need to explain to people face to face before this gets worse. I laughed without humor. Worse? This is just the beginning. Your reputation isn't the only thing that's over. We're over. This marriage is over. The life you've been living is over. More calls came through on both our phones, mutual friends, family, even people from her work who'd seen the social media posts. The isolation she tried to force on me by keeping me in the dark had backfired spectacularly. Now she was the one feeling exposed, vulnerable, and alone. You didn't have to do it like this, she insisted, throwing clothes into a bag. You could have confronted me privately. We could have worked through this. Like you worked through your issues by sleeping with another man? I asked, not believing her. Like you worked through things by mocking me behind my back? You had a year to work through this privately. You chose lies instead. Now you face the consequences publicly. She kept packing, avoiding my eyes. Her phone buzzed constantly with new messages, each one another person learning the truth. Her double life was collapsing, and with it, any control she thought she had. I watched her, already thinking about the next steps, lawyers, divorce papers, splitting everything. The practical part of my brain had taken over, protecting me from the full force of the pain. There would be time for that later. For now, I needed to focus on dismantling the lies and securing my future. She left the bedroom with her bag, rushing towards the front door. I followed, watching as her carefully built world continued to fall apart in real time. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The digital reckoning was in full swing. Where will you go? I asked, not out of concern but curiosity. To a hotel, she mumbled, avoiding my gaze. I need space to think. Not to his place, I pressed. I imagine his wife might have something to say about that now. She flinched. Another notification on my phone. His wife had sent me screenshots of their fight. He was denying everything, claiming the messages were fake, suggesting I was crazy. Typical. He's throwing you under the bus, I told Sarah, showing her the screenshot. Telling his wife you came on to him, that he tried to break it off but you threatened to tell everyone. Interesting story he's making up. Her face went white as she read the messages. The betrayal cutting both ways now. Her partner in lies was sacrificing her to save himself. Their alliance was crumbling. That's not true, she whispered, hands shaking. That's not how it happened at all. Shocking that someone capable of cheating would also be capable of lying, I said dryly. Who could have guessed? She tried calling him, but it went straight to voicemail. 3 tries, same result. Her accomplice had gone silent, leaving her to face the fallout alone. Panic set in as she realized she had no one to turn to. My parents are demanding I come over to explain, she said, her voice breaking. They've never spoken to me like this before. The truth has that effect, I replied. It changes how people see you, how they speak to you, how they value you. She stood in the doorway, bag in hand, frozen. The separate worlds she tried to keep apart were crashing together. No more secret meetings. No more double life. Just the harsh reality of what she'd done. I never meant to hurt you, she offered weakly. That might be the only honest thing you've said all night, I responded. You never meant for me to find out. There's a difference. My phone rang. Her father. I answered, putting it on speaker. Is it true? He demanded, no greeting. The messages you sent? The things you're saying about my daughter? Every word. I confirmed. I found out everything tonight. The affair has been going on for almost a year. I have all the proof. Her face twisted with horror as I spoke directly to her father, with her standing right there. The shame of her parents knowing the details hit her hard. Let me speak to her, her father demanded. I held out the phone. Your dad wants to talk to you. She shook her head frantically, backing away. The same cowardice that let her live a double life now kept her from facing the consequences. I brought the phone back to my ear. She's refusing to speak to you, I informed him. Seems like honest conversations aren't her strong suit. I could hear the disappointment in his sigh. We raised her better than this, he said, his voice heavy. I'm so sorry for what she's done to you. After ending the call, I looked at Sarah, though the word wife felt empty now. She stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. The reality of her situation was finally sinking in. Not just a marriage ending, but relationships with family and friends permanently broken. Respect and trust gone overnight. You should go, I said firmly. I'll have divorce papers drawn up tomorrow. Can't we at least talk about this? She pleaded, a final desperate attempt. 5 years together has to count for something. It counted for nothing when you decided to cheat, I replied coldly. It counted for nothing when you both mocked me behind my back. Why should it suddenly matter now? Her phone buzzed again. A text from her mother this time. I caught a glimpse. We need to see you immediately. No loving words. No support. Just a cold demand from the woman who had always been her biggest defender. She moved toward the door, defeated. What am I supposed to do now? She asked, her voice small. That's not my problem anymore, I replied, opening the front door. You made your choices, multiple times, every day, for months. Now you get to live with them. As she stepped out into the night, the weight of what had happened hung heavy in the air. The life we'd built was gone in a matter of hours. But as I closed the door behind her, I felt something unexpected. Not just anger or pain, but a strange sense of freedom. The truth, as brutal as it was, had set me free from a life built on lies. The weeks that followed moved with a strange efficiency. I contacted a lawyer the next morning and filed for divorce by the end of the week. My lawyer, impressed by the clear evidence I had, assured me it would be straightforward. The law might call it no fault, but the documented affair gave me a clear advantage. Our social circle fractured quickly. Most friends sided with me immediately after seeing the proof. Her parents, to their credit, maintained a quiet dignity, supporting their daughter while acknowledging the seriousness of her betrayal. During a brief, tense meeting to exchange belongings, her father pulled me aside. You were always too good for her, he admitted quietly. I wish things had been different. Her lover faced his own downfall. His wife filed for divorce within days, getting temporary custody of their children. He lost his job when the scandal became public. Apparently, his company had strict rules about moral conduct. The comfortable life he'd enjoyed vanished overnight. From what I heard, he blamed Sarah entirely, further isolating her when she needed someone the most. Sarah tried to reach out many times. First, tearful phone calls I refused to answer. Then, long emails filled with regret and promises to change. When those didn't work, she sent mutual friends to try and arrange a meeting. I declined every attempt. The divorce papers, I felt, said everything that needed to be said. The most surprising thing wasn't the end of my marriage, but the unexpected clarity that came with it. Without the constant lies, I started to see patterns I'd missed. The subtle ways she tried to control me. The guilt trips, the constant need for reassurance that always felt a little off. 3 months after that night, we sat across from each other in a cold, impersonal room. Our lawyers sat beside us as we finalized the divorce. Sarah looked smaller, somehow. The confident woman I'd married had been replaced by someone uncertain, worn down by the consequences of her choices. Before we sign, she said, her first direct words to me in months, I need you to know how sorry I am, not just for the affair, but for who I became, for what I did to us. I nodded, acknowledging her words without offering the forgiveness she seemed to crave. I hope you find whatever it was you were looking for, I replied evenly. Just find it honestly next time. The papers were signed quickly. 5 years dissolved with a few signatures. As we got up to leave, she tried one last time. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? Her voice was barely a whisper, I thought about it not for her but for myself. I already have, I said truthfully. Forgiveness was something I needed to move on. But forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, and it certainly didn't mean we could ever go back. She nodded slowly, understanding the finality in my words. As she walked out of the room, out of my life, I felt no satisfaction in her pain, no real pleasure in the justice served. Just a profound sense of being free from a life that had slowly become a cage of lies. In the years since that night, I've rebuilt my life, piece by piece. I moved to a new city, focused on my career without the constant drain of supporting someone who didn't value me, and built real friendships based on honesty and respect. Sometimes, I hear news of Sarah through old friends. She struggled at first, both financially and socially. Her reputation, once carefully built, was shattered by the public nature of our divorce. Eventually, she moved back to her hometown, starting over among people who didn't know the details of her past. People often ask if I regret how I handled things that night. If I wish I'd been more private, more discreet. My answer is always the same. When faced with darkness, the only real answer is light. Exposing the truth wasn't about revenge. It was about refusing to carry the weight of someone else's lies. It was about taking back my own story. The most important lesson from all of this wasn't about betrayal or even about marriage. It was simpler. When someone shows you who they truly are, believe them. And when they beg, if you love me, go back to sleep, that's precisely when you need to stay wide awake. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.